Perspective changing books are often the hardest kind of fantasy books for myself to get into. I often find myself getting attached to a particular character and would really rather just hear from them and nobody else. However, in Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, otherwise known as this big honker right here, it's a little different. Hello everyone and welcome into my channel. My name is Danny Larson and I'm going to be reviewing, like I said, House in the Cerulean Sea. That was the last video. Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Good grief. I should get my act together. In a world full of dragons that are revered as gods in some parts of the world in this book, they are despised and quite feared in other parts of the world. 1,000 years ago, the Nameless One dominated the world in terror. This towering, evil, and red fireworm thrust his anger and destruction on everyone. He demanded daily human sacrifices until eventually even this act alone would not suffice at keeping his destruction at bay. His smaller yet fierce servants bit his every word and did everything he asked for. The Nameless One was eventually imprisoned and wounded by a Sir Galayan Baratheon. I've always said Galayan, so I'm gonna say that. Sir Baratheon and his sword named Ascalon. We'll go with that. 500 years after this event, during what's called the Great Sorrow, the Nameless One's 5 fiercest and most terrifying generals threatened to take over the world once again. They threw their power and terrifying might over humans for yet another year until they too were put into a long and dormant slumber. We learn that the world in Priory of the Orange Tree is split into mainly east, south, and west. During the Nameless One's ruling and the Grief of Ages, which is also known as the Great Sorrow, a deadly draconic plague, also named the Red Sickness, threatened all of humanity. To prevent their people from dying, the East closed their door to the outsiders forever. And during these long years, the West had forgotten that dragons, not worms, were once revered as kind and gentle creatures. The West had forgotten the difference between the fire-breathing worms of terror and the docile and benign water dragons of the East. The minds of the West clumped them both together into one group, and that group was dangerous. For 1,000 years, Sir Baratheon's line has been ruling over the west side of the world. It was rumored that no matter what, each queen and king must have a child, and that child was always a daughter. Only when the king and queen conceived and bared a child were the people of the West comforted in knowing that they were protected under the ruling of that future child. It was rumored Baratheon's line was the only thing that was keeping the Nameless One back at bay. Now, when she is under a great amount of pressure, Queen Sabran IX, the current ruler of the West, is, like I said, under a great amount of societal pressure to conceive and bear a child. But eventually we learned that it is impossible for Queen Sabran IX to conceive and bear a child. Her womb is laid barren after a worm attack, and making her unable to carry anything else. It was kind of a sad moment, to be completely honest. Now unable to conceive a child, Queen Sabran IX must unite long frayed relations between the South and the East in order to join forces together against the Nameless One's rise. Shannon writes her characters in a way that kept me engaged in every single one of their plot points throughout the entire story. I found myself connecting dots between characters and perspectives of things that could happen or would happen in the future. I found those plot points and I could connect them before they even happened. In a female-driven plot, I often found myself driven to the perspectives of those female characters. You had Meduji Tenay, who is a dragon rider of the East, and you also have Ede Durian, who is an undercover protector of Queen Sabran IX. There are 2 other male perspectives that you see, so there's 4 perspectives in total. You have Arteloth Beck, or Lothbeck, who is a close friend growing up with Queen Sabran as children, and then you also have the disgraced alchemist Nicolaes Roos. And I never liked him. I never liked it. At no point in time did I like Nicolaes. And I think that's very intentional. In this more than 800-page book, I was truly invested for the first 600 to 700 pages of it. The world building is simply phenomenal. Almost every detail in this book is excruciatingly vital, and it's presented in a way that often seems like one idea, but then it turns out to be a completely another. And it kept me invested for the long haul. However, I will say a big however, there are some characters to which, in my opinion, seem to be utterly and completely useless. And this is where I might lose some of you. Without any knowledge of an upcoming sequel coming to it, I know there's a prequel out, but an upcoming sequel, I found Terosa and even Kit, if you guys have read the books, to be just completely worthless. They were almost throwaway characters. They're each in only a few chapters and then promptly disposed of one way or another. Their purpose is to either guilt or drive one specific character, and then once they do that, they're gone, and they never come back again. There are others as well, specifically in Tanae's POV, that I found to be somewhat unnecessary, but honestly, they just weren't all that memorable for me in the long run, and they weren't in the book long enough for me to have any sort of distinct opinion on them, or to form any sort of like attachment to those characters as well. So when they just kind of, yet again, went away one way or another, I was like, oh, okay, and that was about it. There are also some plot points and relationship developments that I thought were just entirely developed way too fast. It wasn't like realistic in my brain. The relationship that develops in Ede's story felt rushed to me and almost came out of nowhere. So while I did like the relationship that ended up happening, I wish that Samantha Shannon would have like taken her time a little bit, because to me it just felt rushed. And like that was just like the end goal, and she like introduced it, there was some sort of interest, and then boom, it's there. And I'm like, but I really wanted that to be like fleshed out, right? I'm a sucker for a good little romance story, and it felt rushed. And I liked it, and I wanted to see more of it, but it just felt rushed, and I was a little disappointed by that. Additionally, the last 100 to 200 pages, the last 100 to 200 pages, and the battle that happens within them felt very, very fast, and it happened very quickly. I often found myself being confused as to where characters were in the battle, and I was like, what, how did you get there? You were way over here, and then now all of a sudden you're right here, and just, did I miss a line? Did I miss something? Like, it felt rushed, and it was kind of a big letdown, because there was just this entire big, really well done world building, and I loved it, and I was so entirely so into it, just to have it all come crashing down and concluded at the end. And we got the happy ending, and I liked the ending, but it felt like it was rushed, and I could do with another like 200 pages if it meant having it fleshed out a little bit more, and just to see like a little bit slower pace instead of being like 5 minutes and then it was done, like an entire war and it's done in 5 minutes. It felt very Breaking Dawn Part 2, if you know what I mean. So like I said, while I did like the outcome, and especially how the final blow was done, once again I found myself wanting more explanation of the battle itself and more location bearings to sort of hold on to in order to place the characters with images in my mind of like where they were, instead of just like being haphazardly thrown around. So like I said, while those parts were a bit lackluster in my mind, I enjoyed the vast majority of this book. The story was built so carefully and so fully that I had no trouble believing the thoughts and ideas behind each country, each part of the world. Like, I totally understood why and how they were going about the ways that they were doing. I found validity in every single one of their thought processes and their religions, discovering the secrets, teachings, and rumors of each court, school, and organization. It was endlessly entertaining and near impossible to put down. If you need an example, if you need a real life example, my mom and I were on a vacation for a week in Orcas Island, Washington, which is like an hour and a half north kind of Seattle, and every time that we just had downtime, I wanted to get back to our little Airbnb cabin. I wanted to sit on the porch with some snacks, a mountain in the distance, just reading this damn book, and I loved it, and it was so good. And also, if you guys need a good vacation spot and a peaceful place to read, Orcas Island, Washington is where you go. I'll give you the Vrbo, because it wasn't an Airbnb, it was a Vrbo. As I said, the first 600 to 700 pages of this book, immensely entertaining. Absolutely love it. Thought-provoking. Enjoyed it to the tens. It was just the last 100 pages or so that sort of lost me at the end. And because of that, I'm gonna have to give it like a 4 out of 5. It was so close. It was so very close, but it's a 4 out of 5 for me. I would still recommend it as a pretty good read. It's a very good read, but like I said, because it sort of lost me at the end, 4 out of 5 for me, personally. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do actually read Priory of the Orange Tree. I would absolutely love to hear your guys' opinion on it. I know that on TikTok it's quite divisive. People either love this book or they hate this book. But anyway, the next book I'm going to review is going to be Divine Rivals, which I actually read on Kindle. And if you haven't already, oh my gosh, get a Kindle. Holy cow. I actually got this sticker, and that sticker in Orcas Island. So if you guys want a good place to get stickers and a great place to read, Orcas Island is where you go. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts on Priory of the Orange Tree was, and let me know what you think Devils? Let me know what you think Divine Rivals is going to be like, because that was a good book. That was a great book. You should totally read that, but you should also totally wait until I review it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!